Thank you for watching Syntero's webinar on sibling relationships. My name is Audrey Amann. I'm a licensed independent social worker with Syntero. This webinar will focus on some of the positives and negatives of having a sibling, as well as providing some general sibling relationship tips. We're also going to look at some age-specific sibling relationship tips and provide some activities and worksheets that will help parents and caregivers boost and build healthy sibling relationships as well as conflict resolution skills. Some of the positives of having a sibling. First would be security. Many children feel comforted by their siblings and feel more safe and secure when their sibling is with them. For example, moving up to a new school may not be as intimidating because an older sibling may already be there and can help the student adjust. Siblings can also be a positive influence. An older sibling may become a person your other children look up to. This can be a very positive thing and can lead to your children trying new activities or staying away from negative coping skills like smoking, drinking, and other risky behaviors. Siblings help provide a lot of social practice. Students with siblings tend to have more practice in a variety of social settings with other children at a younger age than students without siblings. Siblings provide a natural support network through the lifetime. In adulthood, many children rely on their siblings as an ongoing support system. Adults can reminisce and remember fond memories from childhood together long after their parents have passed on. Having siblings means having some teamwork. When children live together, they have more opportunities to solve problems together. These opportunities can help children work with others outside their homes with ease due to the amount of practice they receive as children. Having siblings also requires a lot of patience. Children with siblings often have to wait their turn to receive attention, play with specific toys, or even choose the TV channel. Many siblings share multiple resources, and though it may be difficult, a level of patience is typically developed as a result. Some of the negatives of having a sibling can be perceived favoritism, or when children may feel like one sibling is favored over the other, which can lead to feelings of resentment and hostile behaviors between siblings. Siblings can also be a negative influence. If one sibling is involved in drug use, gang activity, excessive drinking, or other risky and dangerous behaviors, it may normalize the behavior for other siblings. The siblings' behaviors could also lead to an increased access to substances or violence. Siblings can also sometimes mean an inescapable harassment or abuse. Siblings can be some of the worst offenders toward a child when it comes to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. This abuse or harassment can be inescapable for a child, especially when children share a room or do not have separate friend groups or participate in different activities. Having siblings can also mean that sometimes there are unmet needs. Sometimes parents can become too overwhelmed by one child, which can result in another sibling's needs being unmet. This can cause some resentment from these negative interactions. Another negative impact of having siblings can be comparisons. One of the worst things a parent can do is compare siblings to one another. They are individuals with individual needs, wants, and interests. Negative competition and anger can and likely will develop from this comparison. Another challenge of having siblings can be a lack of privacy. Sharing space can be a complicated task for children. Siblings close in age may not have a space to escape from one another, which can exacerbate some of the already existing issues. We are now going to watch a portion of a speech delivered by writer Jeff KLUGER at TEDx Nashville on the hidden power of siblings.
Simply because their needs weren't met as well in the home. The feuds in the playroom that play out over favoritism, birth order, and so many other issues are as unrelenting as they seem. In one study I cite in the book, children in a 2 to 4 age group engage in one fight every 6.3 minutes, or 9.5 fights an hour. That's not fighting, that's performance art. That's extraordinary. One reason for this is that there are a lot more people in your home than you think there are, or at least a lot more relationships. Every person in your house has a discrete one-on-one relationship with every other person, and those pairings, or dyads, add up fast. In a family with 2 parents and 2 kids, there are 6 dyads. Mom has a relationship with child A and B. Dad has a relationship with child A and B. There's the marital relationship, and there's the relationship between the kids themselves. The formula for this looks very chilly, but it's real. K equals the number of people in your household, and X equals the number of dyads. In a 5-person family, there are 10 discrete dyads. The 8-person Brady Bunch, never mind the sweetness here, there were 28 dyads in that family. The original Kennedy family with 9 kids had 55 different relationships. And Bobby Kennedy, who grew up to have 11 children of his own, had a household with a whopping 91 dyads. This overpopulation of relationships makes fights unavoidable. And far and away, the biggest trigger for all sibling fights is property. Studies have found that over 95% of the fights among small children concern somebody touching, playing with, looking at the other person's stuff. This in its own way is healthy if it's very noisy. And the reason is that small children come into the world with absolutely no control. They are utterly helpless. The only way they have of projecting their very limited power is through the objects they can call their own. When somebody crosses that very erasable line, they're going to go nuts, and that's what happens. Another very common casus belli among children is the idea of fairness, as any parent who hears 14 times a day, "but that's unfair," can tell you. In a way, this is good too, though. Kids are born with a very innate sense of right and wrong, of a fair deal versus an unfair one, and this teaches them powerful lessons. You want to know how powerfully encoded fairness is in the human genome? We process that phenomenon through the same lobe in our brain that processes disgust, meaning we react to the idea of somebody being cheated the same way we react to putrefied meat. Any wonder that this fellow, Bernie Madoff, is unpopular? All of these dramas, played out day to day, moment to moment, serve as a real-time, total immersion exercise for life. Siblings teach each other conflict avoidance and conflict resolution, when to stand up for themselves, when to stand down. They learn love, loyalty, honesty, sharing, caring, compromise, the disclosure of secrets, and much more important, the keeping of confidences. I listen to my young daughters. Aren't they adorable? I listen to my young daughters talking late into the night, the same way my parents no doubt listened to my brothers and me talking. And sometimes I intervene, but usually I don't. They're part of a conversation I'm not part of, nobody else in the world is part of. And it's a conversation that can and should go on for the rest of their lives. From this will come a sense of constancy, a sense of having a permanent traveling companion, somebody with whom they road-tested life before they ever had to get out and travel it on their own. Brothers and sisters aren't the sine qua non of a happy life. Plenty of adult sibling relationships are fatally broken and need to be abandoned for the sanity of everybody involved. And only children throughout history have shown themselves to be creatively, brilliantly capable of getting their socialization and comradeship skills through friends, through cousins, through classmates. But having siblings and not making the most of those bonds is, I believe, folly of the first order. If relationships are broken and are fixable, fix them. If they work, make them even better. Failing to do so is a little like having 1,000 acres of fertile farmland and never planting it. Yes, you can always get your food at the supermarket, but think what you're allowing to lie fallow. Life is short, and it's finite, and it plays for keeps. Siblings may be among the richest harvests of the time we have here. Thank you.
So one of the main takeaways from this speech is that fighting in sibling relationships is healthy and normal and is a part of forming that bond with each other. Another thing we want you to take a moment to think about is, in your household, how many dyads are there? How many relationships are at play during any given situation? And how do you expect those relationships to change, evolve, and grow over time? Now we can talk about helping sibling relationships. Just some general tips for what parents and caregivers can do. First, we want to make sure we maintain the individual relationships with each child. Try to get one-on-one time with each of your children. Recognize and respect the unique needs of each child. Avoid comparing your siblings to one another. We talked about that can lead to resentment and anger towards each other. Set ground rules for expected behavior. Praise children for good behavior, not just introducing punishment for negative behavior. We want to try not to involve yourself in sibling fights unless danger is present. Sometimes it's best to let your children work it out or talk through the issue. We'd like to avoid disciplining any child in front of the other. And be available to listen to children's concerns and help them problem solve. Finally, we want to try to show consistency between parents, even if there are multiple households. That consistency can look like common ground rules between households for what's expected behavior. Also thinking about what kind of praise is expected and also what kind of punishment is expected. For children ages 1 through 10, we have some simple steps. So first, we want to set the tone. Children are looking to you to see how to react to adversity. If you model a healthy relationship, your children will take notice, and likely they will develop that own healthy relationship in their siblingship. We want to set rules. Explain the purpose of each rule in a developmentally appropriate way, and allow your children to assist you in creating them as they grow. Children need structure. Having appropriate guidance on what is acceptable behavior will allow you to maintain consistency with each child and will serve as a reminder to the children on how to handle conflict effectively. We also want to listen. No one knows your child better than themselves. Allow them to use their own words to explain how they're feeling. We have some activities later in this presentation to help build students' vocabulary of feelings and emotions that they might be experiencing. We also want to model good behavior. Children in this age group are incredibly impressionable. They look to the adults in their life to learn how to navigate difficult situations. We also want to always be looking for opportunities for kindness. Teach your children how to build one another up by expressing gratitude, happiness, kindness, and thankfulness openly towards others. Your children will take notice and begin practicing those same skills, which will help them build healthy relationships with others, including their siblings. Finally, we want to define behaviors. Children in this age group are learning their surroundings. Children will often scream or cry when they're overwhelmed, and this is normal, just like they said in the video. Instead of punishing a child when they scream at their sibling, help them identify the issue and the feelings they are feeling. A great tool to use when small children are upset is the zones of regulation. This tool helps them identify feelings and find coping tools to help them work through it. If you're interested in more information on the zones of regulation, there is a link at the bottom of this video in the description where you will be able to connect with a Syntero clinician. Now some tips for children ages 11 through 18, focusing on adolescence and teen years. First, we want to watch for signs of any social issues. Bullying often begins within this age range at school, and children may take their frustration out on a younger sibling by yelling, hitting, or taunting them. This is also a time when children are really vying for some independence. There is a struggle for independence that takes place during this phase of life, and it's very normal. Many children may no longer want to be around younger siblings as a result. So try not to force an older sibling to take their younger sibling along with them to do things. This can lead to more resentment and increased levels of anger in both siblings. We also want to try not to parentify. Just because a child is older doesn't mean they should spend much of their time caring for or watching their siblings. The less supervision from a parent or caregiver and more power one child has over the other, the more strained their relationship can become. We want to have separate activities and opportunities for our children. Encourage your children to participate in activities that interest them. This separation can help give siblings close in age different social groups and foster independence from one another. Try not to force a bond. Let your children form a relationship naturally. Forcing them to spend time together can interrupt the natural process and make spending time with their sibling feel like a chore. We want to set realistic expectations. Children will have arguments and spend time apart, and this is completely normal. Allow children to navigate these situations and learn from them with realistic expectations. As Pamela Dugdale says, siblings are the people we practice on, the people who teach us about fairness and cooperation and kindness and caring quite often the hard way. Now we have some activities that parents and caregivers can use with their children who are siblings. So first we have the anger iceberg. On the top, we notice that it's just the tip of the iceberg, and that's where we experience anger a lot of the times. So you feel angry on the surface, and maybe that's the behavior you're showing, but it looks like underneath, there's a whole host of other feelings you could be feeling. This is a great opportunity to teach your children at any age different words to express the feelings that they have. Next on the right, we have a more of, less of worksheet that we can use to explore changes that you'd like to see in a relationship like with a sibling. So first we can talk about what you want more of, what you enjoy about your relationship, or what you need from that sibling. And at the bottom, we can talk about what you might want a little bit less of. Parents and caregivers can step in to help compare and contrast what siblings have said and help siblings find some compromise. On the left here, we have an anger thermometer. So this gives children an opportunity to consider and talk to you and their sibling about what takes them from feeling calm to feeling frustrated, angry, or furious. So thinking about any of the different things or situations that might bring those feelings up. And then you can help them think about what are some things you can do to make yourself feel calm again. Help teach them some positive coping skills. And then finally, we're going to look at some I feel practice. These can be great for problem resolution in helping children remember to talk about how they're feeling in a situation rather than immediately going on the attack. So here we have some different scenarios, and children will be able to practice using those I feel statements. Thank you so much for watching this webinar on sibling relationships. If you have any questions or comments or want more information about any of the activities and tools we've shown you today, please fill out the brief form that is in the description of this video, and you'll get in touch with a licensed Syntero clinician.